Hey everybody, welcome back to Borderline. This is Lonnie. Today we're going to do a three-part video series on the Borderline PR Sting, our curbing machine. In the first video here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through all the parts and components of this machine and really explain really what each part does, proper naming of everything, so you have a better idea of when we talk about certain things, what we mean. Video number 2, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to give you some simple instructions on how to operate this machine. For those guys out there that may have never operated one, just starting to get into the business or thinking about it, we're just going to go through everything that you need to do as far as setting up the machine on a job site, what to look for, and certain things like that. And in video number 3, we're going to go ahead and talk about how you're going to maintain this machine, what you need to do every day before you actually start curbing, on what to look for. Making sure things look right, proper maintenance, daily maintenance, weekly, monthly, changing the oil. We're going to go through all that, looking at your belt and so on. We're going to go through all that here and make sure that that's done properly. And if it is, this machine will last you for many years, and you'll get a lot of use out of it. Let's start at the front of the PR Sting. Really, a lot of these are pretty simple components. They're pretty easy to explain. And again, some of you guys out there that are experienced curbers, this is going to be really old news to you. The front of the machine here, we have a carrying handle right here, and some machines out there don't have it. But what this is going to be for is if you get to an end of a run and you need to get that machine out of the way, your helper or whoever's with you obviously can lift up on the front of the machine to get that machine out of the way. Also, if you have to put it into a back of a vehicle, a truck, or something like that, you have something in the front to lift with. Seems pretty simple, but there are machines out there that don't have them. Your hopper, where the concrete actually gets thrown into, this is considered a hopper. We have a back plate here on this machine. This back plate is removable, so you can clean it, because sometimes you get some concrete buildup here. But also you can take a hose and you can wash down anything that may have fallen in the back here at the end of the job. So you want to make sure you clean and maintain this. This just slides back in, pretty simple, and that's there should be no reason why that can't be cleaned every day. Your side plate just makes it easier for when guys are throwing concrete in from this direction. It doesn't go into the, you might overthrow and throw some concrete into the flower beds and things like that. So this is on here just to make sure it's it's a little bit easier to throw. This can be moved from one side or the other depending on which direction you're going with this machine. Okay, so there's some simple things right there. On the front of the machine right here, where basically your concrete is going to be coming out, this is called an undercarriage. Okay, your undercarriage is always on the machine. This is a 6x4 undercarriage, so it's 6 inches wide, 4 inches high. If you are going to run a square curb like that, you wouldn't put another mold into this machine. You would go ahead and use this, and then you would have a square trowel that would be used for this particular mold. When we sell a machine and you're going to buy molds and trowels with that, essentially your square mold is already on the machine. It is called the undercarriage. Other molds will slide into this to get different shapes, and you'll have matching trowels to work with those. But the undercarriage is always on the machine. It's easily removable. There's 3 bolts to take that off. I'll show you that in a little bit. Last thing on the front, the 2 wheels on the front, we're the only manufacturer that actually puts 2 travel wheels on the front of this. Those of you that are out there that run machines and have to, you got to take them from your trailer sometimes a long ways to the back of somebody's property. It's hard with only 1 wheel in the front. It's a little bit hard to control and make sure it's level, especially if it's a new guy pushing it or pulling it. So we just thought it was right to put two tires on the front to make it easier to transfer from one job site to the next, or just across a yard. These tires, when you're going to curb, need to be removed. Okay, so the machine can be on the ground. That seems very simple, but some inexperienced guys out there that try to do this for the first time, we have seen them actually with the tires still on and they're trying to curb. That's just a part of experience and knowledge and training. But that's the way the machine has to run. This has to run on the ground, and we'll go through some simple things later on how to make sure that you're level. Let's go to the back of the machine now, okay, the PR Sting. Every curb machine out there is going to have some sort of slider system. okay? You are going to need to be able to take this frame and move it from side to side depending on where you're at on a property. If you have to get close to a wall, this needs to slide over so you can get that curve as close as possible to wherever you're going. So simply what you do is you loosen that and slide that frame over to wherever you want, left side or right side. Then you just go ahead and tighten these down to make sure that the frame is solid against your steering assembly. This whole steering assembly, essentially the black part right here, can be removed and taken off. Your steering assembly, obviously with the curb machine is going to go backwards. As it pushes the curb out the front, you're steering it going backwards. So here's your steering handle, your slider system. These are your leveling jacks, okay? You need to maintain level on your machine so your curb isn't leaning to one side or the other. Whenever your tires go into a low area, you need to raise and level the actual frame of the machine to make sure that your curb stays level. So when you see someone running a curb machine and they're cranking each side, what they're doing is trying to maintain the level of the machine, okay? That's what these are for. Now, the PR Sting is if you want to go pretty fast, you can really crank that machine up to go at a pretty decent pace. So when you're raising and lowering this, you need to make sure that this goes up and down fairly quickly to maintain level. What we've done here is increase the size of the screws inside the steering assembly, so it goes up and down at a faster rate, so you can run that machine faster and still maintain level when you're experienced enough to do that. These are very simple handles. You can really spin them fast. You got your steering handle here. You can loosen that handle and run it off to the side if you'd like. But it's pretty simple on how to steer. Now down here, the only machine out there is the PR Sting that has a brake. Now we'll go through a little bit of tips and tricks on what to do with that, but that's going to give you added back pressure when you're going down a hill. And it's something that we don't use every single day, but if we're going down an incline, it's really nice to have that there. What you're looking at down here is your tie rod assembly. Okay, so this tie rod is going to connect the two tires, so when you steer this, both tires move. We've made this removable, I should say easily removable, because all of them are removable on other machines, but you can pull these pins and you can take that tie rod off, so that if you want to run cable, you can easily put a spool of cable on your tie rod, and you don't have to have any special things that you need to order from the manufacturer to make sure you can run cable. So that's something that we've kind of done. Now there's other pins down here that if you're on a side hill, it's going to allow that tie rod to go up and down, because if you're on an incline like this, sometimes your tires are at different level and it's hard to control. That's something you really don't need to use very often, but that's why they're there. Now the back of the machine, you can see basically the width and everything. This is going to be a crossbar up on top here, and obviously we have the manufacturer's book there. For the Honda engine, this machine is a customer's machine, and that's what they get with that. But the crossbar up on top, okay, is going to be someplace where you can put your hand for a little bit added back pressure, obviously for lifting and controlling the machine. This little bolt down here is essentially when you turn your machine as far as it can go in this direction, it prevents that tire from going any farther. And so that's what this is for. The last thing I should say on this side, let's see if I can get a little closer here, is your engine pin system. You can see a handle right here. Okay, we've designed this curb machine for you to easily maintain and clean, and not only clean, but to change parts, or if something goes wrong with your engine, you break the cord, which happens, you want to tighten your belt or put a different belt on it, so on. This engine is able to come off really quickly. In the past, instead of taking the 4 bolts off the engine and taking it off and then replacing something, putting it back on, it takes you a long time because there's not a lot of access for that. So we've designed this to where this comes off. You take the cotter pin out, there's a handle right back here, and what will happen is this pin will come out just like this. Now all you need to do is remove this plate in the front, push the engine forward to take off the belt, and that took you all 15 seconds. Now you can actually see if you need to do a little bit of extra cleaning and whatever you need to do there. If you did break the pull cord, now you can take the engine back to your truck. You can put a new pull cord on there without being on site. It's going to, a lot of less wasted time. If you got curb on the ground, you don't want to have that curb on the ground for that long before you start working it. This is another reason why you should never ever have it not cleaned. You tell your guys at the end of every job, okay, it only takes you 15 seconds to take that engine off. So you take the engine off and you go ahead and, excuse me, you can go ahead and tip that whole machine up without having to worry about water, or excuse me, gas getting into the oil. Now the guys can get underneath here. They can clean, they can use the hose, make sure there's nothing here. Here's your plunger system. We want to make sure that there's nothing underneath here and things like that, so that can be easily cleaned. There's no excuse now for that not to happen. So that is a really nice thing that there's no other manufacturer out there that is going to make it that easy for you to actually clean and maintain your curb machine. Now the last real thing I'm going to show you, just about what things are called, is going to be your track and trolley system. Now, underneath the engine, down in here is where basically the guts of the machine is. Here's your gearbox, and here's your track and trolley system. This is a plunger style system, so it pushes a plunger forward and back, and that's what is going to push your curb out the front. This is something that you need to be familiar with. We do not close this off in the back, so you can easily check underneath there to make sure things are good. There's 8 bearings in there. Now typically, if everything's maintained properly, your bearings will last you a long time. But if you need to change them, they're very easy to change, and we'll go through that in a maintenance video. What we do here is basically every time you start it on your first job of the day, you take a look underneath there, make sure everything is tight. You can tell if there's something off, if it's making a little bit of noise. I'll go ahead and start it, and you can see how this whole system works. If you notice on this machine, it's a very long stroke. Essentially the plunger starts back here and it almost touches the front, and because it's such a long stroke, you're allowed to push a lot more concrete out per stroke, which increases your speed and your efficiency. It doesn't bridge in there as much and plug up to where you have to use your shovel to unplug it. So those are the simple things on the curb machine and some of the names and components. We're going to go ahead and go on to the next one in the series. Video number 2, we'll go ahead and we'll show you some tips and tricks and simple ways to operate the machine on what you need to look for. There's other videos out there that we have on our YouTube page, obviously on site, so you can show body position and things like that, but we'll go through some simple things next.